this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the SteelSeries Prime Wireless. This is an understated, reasonably small and reasonably lightweight wireless gaming mouse from SteelSeries that sits on their lineup of Prime mice. This is a bit more expensive than the SteelSeries Prime that I reviewed previously, and obviously has the benefit of wireless freedom. Also has a number of other interesting specs that make it worth considering. It goes up to 18,000 dpi, 400 IPS, 40 Gs acceleration, 1000 Hz polling rate, and it weighs in around 80 grams. It's designed for claw, fingertip, and palm grips. So if that's your style and this is your bag, then this is an interesting mouse to look at. Now, this mouse uses a number of interesting features that are present on all the Prime mice. That includes SteelSeries TrueMove optical sensor, and more importantly and interestingly, the Prestige OM switches, but more on that later on. In the box, you'll see that you have the mouse itself, a nice flexible USB-C cable, and an adapter and dongle to plug into your PC. The USB-C dongle, as standard, which SteelSeries has been doing for a while now, is present on the Aerox 3 and now on the Prime mice. And you can see that basically that either connects to your PC or to this adapter. The adapter can then be sat on your desk so that you can have the signal close to the mouse. Not that I found that was necessary. I certainly haven't had any issues with the wireless connectivity on this mouse during use. You then can plug the USB-C to USB-A connection in to your PC and obviously download SteelSeries software. SteelSeries engine is now under the SteelSeries GG software, and I'll show you more on that later on. This setup is fairly nice, as you can see, and easy to use. Obviously, USB-C makes it easy to dock. However, I did find that plugging the cable in to charge the mouse can be a little bit fiddly. That said, it has a fantastic battery life, so you won't find that you have to plug it in that often. You can get up to 100 hours of battery life out of this, and that's over the wireless. There is no Bluetooth connectivity, and worth noting in that. But you can see that even when you do plug it in, you do get a really nice flexible cable included. It's also worth noting that this mouse has a fast charging capability, so you can get up to 40 hours of battery life out of it with just 15 minutes of charge. So if you do find it runs low, you can plug it in for a little while and then you'll be ready to go again in the wireless mode. So that's pretty neat in itself and a highlight, but it is a faff to plug in. That's one thing that lets it down. Now, in terms of weight, it is weightier than other mice that I've tried recently, including SteelSeries' own lightweight gaming mice. Obviously, with the cable itself, it's around 112 grams, but without the cable, it comes in at about 82 grams. They say 80, mine was 82, yours might be 81. It could vary ever so slightly. There's not much in it. It's not particularly heavy, and it does feel lightweight in the hand, actually. It feels quite hollow because of it, but that's not a bad thing. It's also very easy to move around and very responsive thanks to the overall design. In terms of the aesthetics, you'll see it's very understated. It has this matte finish to it, which is quite textured, not rough in the hand, but easy to hold on to. It is quite a bit smaller than other mice though, and if you like small mice, then you'll probably prefer it. On the underside, you'll see it has some slick PTFE skates and is very agile thanks to that as well. There's only one RGB zone, which is on the mouse wheel, and I'll show you a bit more on that later on. And that's interesting because the CPI button on the underside can be used to switch between the various CPI levels that are pre-programmed, and the mouse wheel changes color to let you know which zone you're in, which is quite a handy and easy reference. However, I don't really like the CPI button being on the underside because it means you have to lift the mouse off the desk in order to press it, which is a bit of a faff in my mind. Those slick feet though are very slick indeed, and it is very nicely designed in terms of the ergonomic shape. Now, I like to think that my hands are on the larger side, and so this mouse feels a bit small but not tiny in the hand, and it certainly has delivered a good gaming experience. Now, the buttons themselves are the most interesting feature of this mouse. It uses SteelSeries Prestige Optical Magnetic Switches on the main left and right buttons. And these are designed to last longer than your traditional switches, and a significant amount longer, 100 million clicks, but they're also designed to react really quickly as well. And they give a really satisfying click sound and feeling. The side buttons sadly don't have that setup, and just like on the wired version, I find that they're a bit too recessed, but the clicks from the main switches are undeniably satisfying, and they give a nice crisp click whenever you press them. And they also give some excellent tracking because obviously it uses optical light beams to monitor the button presses, and so you have a really fast and easy actuation and accurate gaming as well. I'll show you some gaming sessions later on, a clip of performance in there, but I found this to be a very nice mouse in that way. Now it's worth noting that the wireless model actually suffers in a couple of areas because it has specs that are a little bit lower than the wired version. So the more affordable Prime actually has higher IPS and acceleration, 450 and 50 Gs versus 400 and 40 Gs on the wireless version. However, I found that the SteelSeries wireless connection and the overall specs of this mouse mean that it is certainly a good one to use. And it's also nice and slick on the desk. You can easily move it around, and it's relatively fuss-free, and it has been a great experience. One small gripe that I did have, and that's probably because I wasn't paying enough attention to the RGB on it, is that I found one time it just ran out of power in the middle of using it. However, as I said, 100 hours of battery life out of this thing, mostly thanks to the lack of RGB lighting, so it does keep going and going. And I haven't had to plug it in much. Been using it for gaming and for working purposes, and rarely having to plug it in is obviously a bonus of that system. Also, the aesthetic is quite understated. You are paying quite a premium for this mouse, although it's not the most expensive I've seen lately, and it's quite an understated look. Reminded me of the Logitech G Pro X Superlight, which is also lightweight and wireless, and also doesn't have any RGB to speak of, and quite understated. So I'm going to do a comparison video in the near future to talk about those two and the difference between them. But you could see a brief look at them side by side there, and you'll see the sort of size and shape of them are very similar. A close-up look at my main gripe with this mouse, which is the side buttons. Unfortunately, it's the same issue that I had with the wired Prime, in that the front side button and even the rear one are a little too recessed. They don't stick out quite far enough for my liking, which makes them difficult to feel and to activate in the middle of a game. I didn't find I suffered from this problem quite as much with the wireless one as the wired, which is odd because they're basically the same design, but it is still a nag. So if you find you use your thumb buttons a lot, you might find this problematic. When you first get the mouse out of the box, you'll see that the RGB lighting on the wheel is flashing to let you know that it hasn't paired with the dongle, but once you plug the dongle in, it automatically connects and there's no problem. In the SteelSeries software, you can customize the RGB lighting, but you have various different colors for the different ranges of DPI or CPI that you have set on the mouse. So when you press the button on the underside, it will change the lighting on this ring. The mouse wheel itself also has a nice textured feel to it, and it also gives some good tactile response. Now I'm going to be quiet for a minute so you can hear the button clicks and see some of the action on the mouse pad, because it's a very satisfying click. And now some footage from Rainbow Six Siege. I found this mouse played very well and responded really nicely to my actions. You're able to move it around really quickly, and it is not especially lightweight. As I said earlier on, it's quite a bit heavier than some of the other lightweight mice out there, but it's certainly good enough to get the job done, and overall gives a nice response.
Hostiles have found the diffuser. 45 seconds left. Seconds remaining in bomb diffuser cycle.
It's also very comfortable. What you might have seen in earlier shots of this is that my hands get quite hot, but what I have found is that it doesn't suddenly become very slippery or sort of a problem to hold on to. That ABS texture with the matte finish to it makes it easy to grip onto and not a problem. Now I'm going to dive into the SteelSeries software and show you what you can do in there.
And here we are within SteelSeries GG software, which is now the home of SteelSeries Engine, which is buried in here. If you click into the Prime Wireless, you'll see it's currently in wired mode because I've got it plugged in and charging, and you'll get an indicator to let you know how much charge you've got left. It's a fairly straightforward interface with the SteelSeries Engine. You'll see there are a number of different mouse CPI levels that are already set. You can set 5 as standard. You can't add any extra, but you can remove levels. One of the things that I mentioned earlier in the video is that if you press the CPI button on the underside, it will change colour. There's no actual way to change the colour that's represented in here, but it will go through the levels. So as default, 400 CPI is set as purple. Then you have 800 is blue, 1200 is green, 2400 is a kind of yellow off green colour, and then you have red at level 5, 3200 CPI. The illumination then defaults back to whatever you've set, so you can see you have a number of different options for the lighting on the mouse wheel. You can choose from here, you can go through colour shift, breathing, you can disable it, you can set it to steady. Another thing in regards to the RGB lighting, because obviously it'll affect the overall battery life, as you'll see that there's a timer to dim it, and battery saving settings, so it'll automatically go to sleep as well, and a smart illumination mode so that the lighting turns off when it's moving. So when you're using the mouse, the lighting's off, so it actually saves some battery there. You can adjust the polling rate down here. You see that's set to 1000 Hertz as standard. The other highlight is the function over here. If you click on this, you can actually just quickly have an action. So if you have a button press or something in mind, so for example, if you want to reload a weapon, you can press R and that automatically sets that there. You can also dive into a full-blown macro editor where you can record your own macros in here. So we can just start by recording a macro, and you can obviously set that, and then you can do other things. You can delete the gaps between them, for example, and obviously if you go into the settings, you can remove the delays as well, so it's automatically there. If you've made a mistake in your macro for some reason, and you want to take something out of it, you can easily delete that too. So SteelSeries Engine is actually really easy to customize and program the things that you want to do, and you can obviously program multiple buttons in here. You have all of the standard buttons and side buttons, as well as the mouse wheel, both scroll up and scroll down and push in too. So there's lots of customization options in here. And you can choose to add in media playback buttons, you can launch an application, and you can do other things. Another thing obviously is that you can set up specific config, so you'll see it has a setup as a default. You can also choose to set up to launch with specific applications. So we might choose, for example, if we go into Steam, we might choose, for example, to set up a launch specifically for Control or for any other game. So you can just pick up the game there and you can then set up a action. So we have a specific setup for specific games. Perhaps you have a higher CPI level and you're playing certain games, and other settings, other macros or button presses. And so it automatically will launch that setup for that game as soon as you boot it up, which is pretty neat. So overall, a really straightforward bit of software to use. No fuss, no problems. So there you have it. A pretty decent gaming mouse, wireless, comfortable, and full of goodness. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching.
This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.